After hearing wonderful messages of Christ's resurrection this morning, I wanted to take a different approach today and answer the "what do we do now" question. Now, humans throughout all of history have always strove, and humans today always strive for some kind of purpose in life, and to always leave a legacy. Fyodor Dostoevsky, a Russian writer, philosopher, once wrote, "The secret of man's being is not only to live, but to live for something definite. Without a firm notion of what he is living for, man will not accept life and rather destroy himself than remain on earth." So as a result, we humans always look to different stuff so that we can have a purpose. So we look into science, we look into technology, management, politics, psychology, you name it. But even science, with all of its discoveries and all the lives that it saved, is meaningless because it doesn't answer the only question important to us. And that question is, what shall we do now and how shall we live? Now, I want you to take this view like all these paths, all these different purposes that people have in life that I just mentioned. I want you to view them as different paths. I want you to keep this in mind as I'm speaking. Now, to answer the what do we do now question, I wanted to open to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. It's Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. And it reads, "Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." Now this verse beautifully sums up Jesus' death and resurrection. But it also gives us Christians a command when it says, "Fixing our eyes on Jesus." Now after his resurrection, we got a new path. So we not only have this science, technology, psychology, politics, whatever, we also have a path towards Jesus. And what we are responsible for doing is we are fixing our eyes on him so that we can easily travel through this path. Now, how do we fix our eyes on Jesus? How do we do this? A simple answer might be to follow Jesus' commands. The three more prominent ones being love your God, love your neighbor, and to take up your cross and follow him. But how do we take up our cross and follow him? How do we do this? Does that mean that we have to give up everything that we know and become monks or missionaries? Probably not, right? What this means is that everything we are, everything we do, and everything we have is devoted to Jesus because of his resurrection. Now, Martin Luther, not the civil rights leader, but Martin Luther, is the father of Protestantism, and the reason we're not Catholic. He wrote some controversial stuff in his book, even for today's time. And in his book, The Babylonian Captivity, he recommends the abolition of all orders and abstention from all vows, which means like don't become a monk, don't become a nun, don't make promises for your Christian life, like for instance, I'm never going to get married for God, I'm never going to eat meat for God, etc. And the reason he says that is the contemplative life has no warrant in the scriptures. It reinforces hypocrisy and arrogance, and it endangers conceit and a contempt of the common Christian life. But this is not nearly as radical sounding as what he says in the very next paragraph. "The works of monks and priests, however holy and arduous they be, do not differ one whit in the sight of God from the works of the rustic laborer in the field or the woman going about her household tasks, but that all works are measured before God by faith alone. Indeed, the menial housework of a manservant or maidservant is often more acceptable to God than all the fastings and other works of a monk or priest, because the monk or priest lacks faith." Now what we need to do is we need to forget about this notion of ourselves that we have, and instead, through faith and for the glory of God, strive for our purpose by fixing our eyes on Jesus. Now a big problem with this that hinders us on our path is pride. Because pride tells us, oh no, this is mine, this is what I'm doing, but it's not. Because everything that we have has been given to us by God. And I think C.S. Lewis says it perfectly when he says, the more we get what we now call ourselves out of the way, and let him take over us, the more truly ourselves we become. Now to finish, I wanted to read you a poem by a guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now Bonhoeffer was a German pastor in the time of World War II, and he spoke out against the Nazis and what they were doing. And he was initially arrested for escorting a group of Jewish refugees over to Switzerland to save them. And as a result, he was hanged in a concentration camp. But before he was hanged, he was in a jail cell in Berlin. And in Berlin, he wrote this poem, and it reads, "Who am I, they often tell me. I step from my cell's confinement, calmly, cheerfully, firmly, like a squire from his country house. Who am I, they often tell me. I used to speak to my warders, freely and friendly and clearly, as though it was mine to command. Who am I, they also tell me? I bore the days of misfortune, equably, smiling proudly, like one accustomed to win. Am I then really that which other men tell of? Or am I only what I myself know of myself? Restless and longing and sick, like a bird in a cage. Who am I? They often tell me. Struggling for breath, as though hands were compressed in my throat. Yearning for colors, for flowers, for the voices of birds. Thirsting for words of kindness, for neighborliness. Tossing in the expectations of great events. Powerlessly trembling for friends at an infinite distance. Weary and empty at praying, at thinking, at making. Faint and ready to say farewell to it all. Who am I? This or the other? Am I one person today and tomorrow another? Am I both at once? A hypocrite before others, and before myself, a contemptible, woe-begone weakling. Or is something within me still like a beaten army, fleeing in disorder for victory already achieved? Who am I? They mock me. These lonely questions of mine. Whoever I am, thou knowest, O God, I am thine. Amen.